Hey everyone, what's going on? Last night I saw this article about Field of Dreams, the actual park in Dyersville, Iowa, being vandalized, and the damage is estimated to be about $15,000. And what's so interesting to me in regards to this story is all year I've been reminded of stuff I was talking about in 2015 in regards to earthquakes and Philadelphia. And now this year we had the 4.1 earthquake that was, felt in Philadelphia, the Delaware one, and the Eagles are making the Super Bowl in Minneapolis that is well known for the bridge collapse in 2007 and a bunch of other stuff. That Minnesota bridge collapsed on 8/1, a lot like 81. It fell 81 feet. If you write out Golden Gate Bridge in gematria, it equals 81, and the it will be 81 years old this year. And also, the last time that the Minneapolis area had the a halfway sized big earthquake was in the year 81. And you have to go back and watch what I was talking about in 2016. And you have to check out the links if you're new to understand, but check out the links in the description. How to Gematria, you'll understand more of what I'm talking about. But in 2016, I was talking about this Native American theme that I was noticing in the media, and I thought it was synced up to the Indians and the Cubs in the World Series. Turns out the Indians lost to the Cubs in the World Series. Just before that, if you remember, we got the Dakota Access Pipeline stories and a bunch of other stuff. And I was talking about how it was connected to the area that I live in because of Kevin Costner and and also the death of Prince. And think about Prince in regards to Minneapolis. But we had got a story about Prince's Yellow Cloud guitar. And in the town that I live in, a small town in Iowa, Dunlap, Iowa, it's like 1,000 people, mostly old people. But if you look it up on Google or anything, the most famous thing that happened here was that they killed the last keeper of the sacred pole of the Omaha Indians, Chief Yellow Smoke. And the Omaha people were going to come to the town and kill the whole town, but the people of the town wore their Freemason outfits and they went outside and did Masonic symbols. And then the article says that the Native Americans didn't want to kill him anymore and they believed what they had said about the people who killed him actually had fled town and they weren't from the town or whatever. And they said by some unknown manner, the Omaha people understood Masonic symbols and whatever else. And there's a park in Denison, Iowa, that's called Yellow Smoke Park, and it is based off of, Yellow Smoke, the Omaha guy that my town killed. And that town, Denison, Iowa, is where the lawyer in the JFK case, in the movie JFK, the lawyer that Kevin Costner plays, is Jim Garrison, and he was born in Denison, Iowa, that town. And we also have Brandon Sheriff, or however you say his name, from Denison, Iowa, who's a Washington Redskin, and he played for the University of Iowa. And last summer or 2016, the summer, we got the death of another Iowa football player named Kyle Calloway, and he died in Vail, Arizona. And Yellow Smoke Park is in between Denison, Iowa, and Vail, Iowa. So I knew there was a connection to the area that I lived in, and I started looking up some stuff about Kevin Costner. And as I was looking up stuff about Kevin Costner, we got the death of this chief in the movie. Let's type it out here. We got the death of Chief David Bald Eagle from the movie Dances with Wolves that Kevin Costner was in. On somewhere around July 28th, we got this death. Chief David Bald Eagle. And now we have the Eagles. I don't know, possibly nothing. Just makes me wonder. But I was talking about this guy, and I started talking about the movie Field of Dreams, and then not even a week later, we got the death of W.P. Kinsella, the guy who wrote the book Shoeless Joe Jackson that the movie Field of Dreams is based off of. Anyway, the reason that this film ties into earthquakes is because Field of Dreams came out in 1989, and when he takes Terrence Mann to the baseball game, he takes him to the Boston Red Sox versus the Oakland Athletics. And the Oakland Athletics made the World Series in 1989, the Earthquake Series. And in Gematria, Oakland Athletics equal 155, 56, just like Kevin Costner. And what else was interesting about that? When he took Terrence Mann to the Red Sox versus the Oakland A's, that's when he saw the stuff about Moonlight Graham. It said 1922 or whatever. 1922 was the year that the New York Giants played the New York Yankees in the World Series, right? And that was a same city series. And then 1989, also a same city series involving the Giants. The San Francisco Giants, not the New York Giants, played the Oakland Athletics. And then we got the earthquake during Game 3 of the World Series. And what else is interesting about that Game 3 is it was on October 17th, but the game got made up on October 27th, which is the anniversary of Philadelphia being founded. Also, in regards to Prince, and actually Moonlight Graham, they have to go to Chisholm, Minnesota to pick up Moonlight Graham to bring him to the Field of Dreams. But the movie Field of Dreams came out on April 21st, 1989. That's the same day that Prince died or whatever. Prince died on April 21st of 2016. And remember last year, the Vikings' first home game or whatever, it was the first touchdown pass was a pass from Aaron Rodgers to Jordy Nelson. Rodgers Nelson. Prince's real name was Prince Rodgers Nelson. And that was that whole game. They did a Prince tribute because Prince had died and he was from Minnesota. Anyway, during that earthquake, the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, this bridge right here collapsed in the San Francisco Bay Area. The Bay Bridge is what they call it. And what's interesting to me is that it opened on November 12th, 1936. That means that it is currently 81 years old. And remember, Golden Gate Bridge equals 81. The Minnesota Bridge that collapsed on 8/1, fell 81 feet. Ton of stuff with the number 81. There's a bunch of stuff synced up to Pope Francis as well. Pope Francis just turned 81 days after the Jesuit anniversary. He's the first Jesuit Pope. He visited the United States in 2015, which was the 239th year of the United States. 239, the 52nd prime. Minnesota equals 52. We're going into Super Bowl 52. That's why we have Kobe Bryant. His full name equals 81 in Gematria. Think about him scoring 81 points in a game. And he's also a Philadelphia native. This November 12th date, though, sticks out a whole lot because if you've been following what I've been talking about with the kneeling stuff, it all goes back to Charles Manson. And Manson believed that the Beatles song Blackbird was telling black people to rise up over the whites and whatever else. And the last time that the Eagles played in the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots, Paul McCartney, the guy who wrote the song Blackbird, the Beatle, he sang the halftime show. And it was just after the Justin Timberlake stuff with Janet Jackson and whatnot. Janet Jackson singing songs off her album Rhythm Nation 1814, which the 1814 comes from the year that Francis Scott Key wrote the national anthem. Think about all that in regards to kneeling, ton of stuff with the kneeling stuff. But this just so happens to be Charles Manson's birthday, the 316th day of the year. His real name, Charles Mills Maddox, equals 316. He died on the 3 months and 16 days after the anniversary of the Tate murders or whatever. If you go into the Hebrew lettering and you write out Jesus Christ equals 316. And if you go from the date of the Super Bowl this year, 2/4, to Pope Francis's birthday this year, it's a span of 316 days. And then think about Tim Tebow, the guy with the 316 game against the Steelers, the original guy who kneeled, right? He kneeled to pray or whatever. The original kneeler had the big 316 game against the Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers equal 81. Pittsburgh is known as the city of bridges. So just a lot of interesting stuff when I'm looking back at this. And then this bridge is 81 years old. Another thing I found interesting, if you've been following my channel, I mentioned something in regards to Blind and the band Korn and just some synchronicity that was going on, and I noticed something to do with Blind that I'm supposed to see. And I even talked about the song Gangsta's Paradise or whatever that Coolio had sampled Stevie Wonder's song, whatever it was, Paradise Law or Paradise something. And when you look at this Loma Prieta earthquake, Stevie Wonder was actually supposed to sing the national anthem on October 17th, the day of this earthquake, in Game 3 of the World Series. See if I can find it here. I guess he wasn't going to sing it. He was going to play the national anthem on his harmonica. But then he pulled out days following the earthquake, and then this other guy did the national anthem, right? So interesting. And I started thinking about Field of Dreams. You know, a big piece is James Earl Jones. And there's something going on with The Lion King. We had the death of Benson this year. That guy who played Benson was also the voice of Rafiki in The Lion King. James Earl Jones is the voice of Mufasa. Now we have Elton John retiring. Elton John, you know, has a song, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? That's connected to The Lion King. And Elton John even announces his retirement on Neil Diamond's birthday, and Neil Diamond had just came out and said he had Parkinson's disease or whatever. You know, Parkinson's equals 117. Neil Diamond equals 117. James Earl Jones, born on January 17th, a lot like 117. Field of Dreams in Gematria equals 117. And notice they need $15,000 to replace it or to fix it. $15,000, 117 in Gematria. Also, one of the only other movies I can think of with James Earl Jones is The Sandlot, and you know, the voice of Darth Vader or whatever, but The Sandlot. And at the end of that movie, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, he steals home against the San Francisco Giants. In regards to 117, though, I'm telling you, ever since the birth of my son on January 17th, 117 just keeps coming up in every story I remotely click on. You know, I don't even know how to explain it. This story just kept coming up on my Facebook feed, so I decided to click on it. No idea who this lady is, but her name equals 117 and 234. My son's name equals 234. She wrote this science fiction novel, or whatever or the series called Earthsea. And if you read through the description, it talks about language and names have the power to affect the material world, and something to do with, you know, people can upset the balance, right? A lot like what I've been saying, I think Gematria does, is, you know, it does something to this code that we all live in, and there are people who understand this, and they use it to rule over us. And then I clicked on this Field of Dreams one, it had the 117. Kobe Bryant's jersey retirement day, the day after Pope Francis's birthday, had a whole bunch to do with 117 in connection to the Super Bowl. Whatever, it was what was it, 117 days after Kobe Bryant's birthday. His name with the E exception equals 117. It was 1 month, 17 days before the Super Bowl. A while back I was talking about Rocky and his connections to Philadelphia. And how it connects to Happy Gilmore, where Happy learns how to putt on the Earthquake Golf Course, and the building that falls over looks like the Comcast Center in Philadelphia. But Chubbs is his teacher. Chubbs is played by Carl Weathers, who is also Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed equals 52 in Gematria. Carl Weathers equals 52 in Gematria. And on the film Rocky, Apollo Creed dies on August 31st, 1985. August 31st is the anniversary of the largest East Coast earthquake ever recorded in Charleston, South Carolina in 1886. Interesting. And then think about Rocky, rocks, I don't know, just makes me wonder. Rocks moving, the ground. Even Sylvester Stallone's full name, it equals 117 in Gematria. In 2015, we got that movie called Creed, right, where Rocky gets cancer. Cancer equals 44. Cigarettes equal 44. Chemo equals 44. Earthquake equals 44. But in that movie, it's all about Apollo Creed's son, right? And the actor that plays him is Michael B. Jordan. And I talked about the connections between Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and Philadelphia, and even the country Jordan, where the capital used to be called Philadelphia until the year 106 AD, and then it was later destroyed by earthquakes. So there's a ton of earthquake symbolism that's been going on, and I've said how a lot of stuff is going back to what I was talking about in 2015, so must well just talk about this post again, I guess, or whatever. But in 2015, I documented about Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan had made racist remarks or whatever about his daughter's boyfriend or whatever it was, something to do with he was black. I can't remember what it was, but he made racist remarks. Just think about that in regards to the kneeling and whatever else. And it's the 88th anniversary of the stock market crash, and the Super Bowl's played at U.S. Bank Stadium, and Colin Kaepernick 88, Neil equals 88, Star Spangled Banner equals 88, Trump equals 88, Hulk Hogan is H is the eighth letter, 8, a lot like 88. And just after Hulk Hogan had the racist remarks, we got the death of Roddy Piper, right, who's in the movie They Live, where they shoot up the news people, and then we got the Bridgewater shooting at the end of August or whatever, just after Roddy Piper died, and some guy shot up the news people, and it said Franklin Bridgewater on the bottom, and it also had the death of a Pennsylvania NASCAR guy or whatever. And there's the Ben Franklin Bridge in Philadelphia. Ben Franklin, also born on January 17th, right? So definitely something connected to that number, 117. Even Rocky, think about Rocky and the comparisons to Muhammad Ali and whatever else. Muhammad Ali, born on January 17th. He also had Parkinson's, right? So Hulk Hogan, look at these connections to Super Bowl 52. The 88 stuff. His real name is Terry Bollea, or however you say that, 52. Hulk Hogan equals 52. And the reverse way, his real name equals 65, like Philadelphia. And he'll even turn 65 years old this year. And what I talked about previously was that he broke his ribs when I was a kid because Earthquake sat on his ribs. Earthquake's name was John Tenta. John Tenta in Gematria equals 107, just like Earthquake the Big Way. But when Hulk Hogan, he did it on the Brother Love show. Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. And when Hulk Hogan got his revenge, it was at SummerSlam that was held at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. Also, think about Hulk Hogan in regards to, Mr. America, kind of, right? Everything, he was all patriotic and whatever else. And, I am a real American. We got a president now that, make America great again, whatever else. And I don't know, the reason that that's just interesting to me is because the guy who wrote Hulk Hogan's theme song, I am a real American, whatever, his name is Rick Derringer. And that just sticks out to me in regards to Pope Francis. When he went to Philadelphia, he gave a speech on Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address lectern. And Abraham Lincoln just so happened to die with a gun called the Philadelphia Derringer, right? So there's definitely a link to all of this and how it's somehow interrelated into Donald Trump. the same time that Roddy Piper died and we got these stories, we also had the train wreck theater shooting and then the Antioch theater shooting, right? Think about Abraham Lincoln getting assassinated in a theater. You know, some interesting stuff. Also, Roddy Piper was on the TV show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and the 52nd, he was on the 52nd episode, and they had this whole thing about wrestling and their team was going to be called the Birds or whatever. Birds equal 52. They ended up being called Birds of War. Birds of War equals 52. So everything synced up to 2015, I'm telling you, is synced up to this Super Bowl this year. Philadelphia Eagles in Jewish gematria equal 333. And in 2015, it was the 333rd anniversary of Philadelphia. And that anniversary is 2 years, 3 months, 9 days before the Super Bowl, 239, which is the 52nd prime number. And I think I said that in the beginning, but 2015 was also the 239th year of the United States. Pope Francis, his 1,189th day of being the Pope, 1,189th day of being the Pope, was on Donald Trump's 70th birthday that year, in the 239th year of the United States. Donald Trump's birthday is also on Flag Day, right? Think about it, 1,189. That's how many chapters are in the King James Bible. 1,189. Let's pull it up really quick. Let's do Jewish gematria here. Donald J. Trump equals 1,189 even in gematria. Key of David equals 1,189. And last year I was talking about the Key of David and how Jesus was supposed to have the Key of David, but Pope Francis, the Key of David is mentioned in Revelation 3:7 in regards to the Church of Philadelphia as well. And I said Francis Scott Key sounds a lot like Francis got key, and Jesus is supposed to have the key. And the next day we got the death of Keon Carpenter, an ex-Atlanta Falcon player named Keon Carpenter. I mean, it's like, you got to be kidding me. We get the death of Keon Carpenter just after I'm talking about the Key of David and how Jesus the Carpenter is supposed to have the key. But 2015 was also 404 years after 1611, which was the year that the King James Bible came out, and supposedly it came out on 5/2 even, 5/2. And if you write out Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it equals 1611 in Jewish gematria. And that was the 239th year was 404 years after that. And Pope Francis equals 404. And satanic gematria, King James equals 404. Just show you really quick. King James 404. There's 404 verses in the book of Revelation. Pope Francis arrived in the United States at 4:04 p.m. So who knows? You know, lots of jumbled up information. It probably won't make sense to somebody who hasn't been following me or somebody who doesn't understand gematria as much. But there's a lot of stuff that is interrelated. You know, Super Bowl LI, if I can type it out here, even equals 163, just like earthquake, you know. So, I don't know. I don't know if we'll get an earthquake at the, you know, at the Super Bowl, or if it's just going to be an earthquake that's connected to the Super Bowl, you know, maybe so many days after, or possibly it's, you know, possibly there's something with earthquake that's showing me something else. Just like, you know, the bridge symbolism was really big with Pennsylvania or with Pittsburgh, but it's really just showing me the stuff I was talking about in 2015. That's why I'm making these videos, try to piece all of this information together. And, you know, my friend Sam just texted me and said that I was talking about Johnny Van Zant or whatever, or whoever the Van Zant is, and Leonard Skinner, and he might possibly die this year. And he just texted me and said that they just announced their farewell tour. So how funny, you know. But anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. So James Earl Jones, the blind guy in The Sandlot or whatever, I think I mentioned that. But look at his name in Gematria. 231, just like national anthem, you know. That's the big thing on this year, the flag, the national anthem, the kneeling, U.S. Bank Stadium. There's just a big riddle here with this movie, and that's why we got this story of the Field of Dreams Park being vandalized. Even thinking about Moonlight Graham, and on January 31st this year, just in a few days, we're going to have the first blood moon, or it's the blue blood moon, the first one since Pope Francis left Philadelphia, you know, the four of the tetrad or whatever. This is the first blood moon since. Moonlight Graham. The moon has been super important to a lot of stuff that's been going on in the last couple of years. Earlier in the year, I'll leave a video in the description, but earlier in the year I even mentioned something about the supermoon and how it was connected to earthquakes. And then after we had that supermoon in September or whatever, we got an earthquake. So, and Pope Francis talked about how 585 and 58 are big numbers around earthquakes. You know, Charles Francis Richter, he died age 85 in the year 85. Richter scale equals one of them 58 or 85. Seismograph equals 58, 85, whatever it was. Just I'll leave some links in the description. Tons of 58. And then Pope Francis visited Mexico, and we got that big Mexico City earthquake 585 days later. And the study of earthquakes supposedly goes back to the year 585 BC from a guy named Falls of Miletus, or however you pronounce it. And his name equals 85 in Gematria. And 85 is super important as well to Back to the Future, right? That's when Back to the Future comes to an end on October 27th, the anniversary of Philadelphia. And Marty, even when he comes back to 1985, he goes across that red bridge that reminds you of the Golden Gate Bridge, and then the train destroys the time machine. That was October 27th, and then 30 years later, the World Series began, and the Kansas City Royals won the World Series in 2015 or whatever, right? And that was the year of, it's supposed to be the Cubs winning the World Series, but the Royals won for the first time since 85, and that World Series began on the same day that the Back to the Future ended, and the Royals were the ones who won the World Series in 1985 as well. Hopefully that makes sense. It was connected to Back to the Future. It just wasn't for the Cubs like you would think. But gonna leave the video there. You know, just take the information in. Help me try to build off of it. You know, I've learned a lot from other people trying to piece this together, because there's definitely something to do with earthquakes, something to do with bridges, stuff that I was talking about in 2015. Now we're getting all these people retiring from music. I don't know. Have a good one. Peace out. Actually, one last thing I forgot. I was going to do it a week or so ago, but this is my friend Sam's YouTube channel. He only has 9 subscribers right now, so I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description. I leave a link to a bunch of other ones. I'm sure there's more that I should be listing. The ones that I list are the ones that I watch when I get a chance, you know, so I'm sure there's tons more that I should be, and I'm sorry if I don't have you in there, but this is my friend Sam's. He's been covering some, you know, they're short videos. He's covering stuff that isn't so mainstream, such as this one is about the death of the bassist in the band Pennywise. So definitely come check out his channel. We just need more people sharing Gematria, whether it is by YouTube or whatever else. But just wanted to give him a shout out. Have a good one. Peace. I'm sorry, one last thing I forgot to mention earlier, I wanted to mention was yellow smoke in Gematria equals 155, just like Oakland Athletics, just like Kevin Costner. And also the word, you know, I said the town was saved by Freemasons. That equals 155 as well. Also, Chief Yellow Smoke equals 1611 in Jewish Gematria, just like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That's another reason why it was so important. And yeah, there's a lot more that goes along with it, such as the reason the Mormons came to, came to Council Bluffs, Iowa, and the Mormon bridge that goes over the Missouri River and whatnot. So I swear this is the end.